What if I told you that depression has an evolutionary purpose?
How could that be? Are you saying that this terrible thing could actually be beneficial?
Many theories claim so. Let me introduce you to some major ones.
But isn't depression a malfunction of the brain? Like other mental disorders or like physical diseases?
Well, maybe first I can explain why many experts doubt that. If depression is a malfunction and is bad for survival and reproduction, evolution should have worked to eliminate them. That's why other mental disorders are usually rare. However, somehow so many people deal with depression. In 2023, 29% of U.S. adults had been diagnosed with depression at some point of their lives.
But what about dementia? It affects many, yet is clearly a malfunction.
If depression only affected the elderly like dementia does, it would have been labeled as a malfunction. We don't function perfectly if we age. However, many young people become depressed, so that's not the case.
Then maybe it's because of current society. It's pretty different from how our ancestors lived. Just like how increase in obesity is because our body is adopted to ancient environment with less food.
Researchers have studied various societies globally, including those with more primitive lifestyles. They found depression in every society. They even found reactions very similar to depression in animals. So, that doesn't seem to be the case either.
Okay,
We also know which part of the brain seems to promote depression. It seems like evolution has preserved this function. These are why many experts suspect that depression may serve an evolutionary purpose and is not just a malfunction.
then what does it do that's beneficial?
Experts think that depression is a defense mechanism. Anxiety is unpleasant but useful. Fever is unpleasant but useful. Depression is similarly an unpleasant but useful defense mechanism.
Defense mechanism for what?
When something terrible happens or nothing you do is working, it's probably best to stop what you were doing so that nothing worse happens or you don't waste energy on unproductive effort. Depression is a defensive mechanism that shuts you down in such cases. One typical example is loss in social status. The rank theory claims that depression is mainly associated with this. Many depressions are caused by losing in social competition. Some animals also show depressed behavior when their status is low. There is study in primate that shows they have high level of brain hormone called serotonin if one has high social status, and have low level of serotonin if one has low social status. Low serotonin is associated with depression. When one loses status, the serotonin level suddenly decreases.
Are you saying that when one loses the competition for dominance, one become depressed?
Yes, that happens.
But how would being depressed be beneficial in such case?
Depression stops you from engaging in losing battles. In nature, if you never give up in a fight against dominant opponent, you would very likely be killed. Depression diminishes your ambition and forces you to accept a submissive position. At the same time, it works to signal your opponent that you won't fight back anymore. Your face and posture will show your depression so that the winner stops attacking you further.
But depression occurs in many other circumstances, not just losing in competition.
I know, but depression can have more than one role, right? Losing battle for status is one major cause of depression, and since we see it in animals, it could even be the original role of depression. Here's another theory. Depressed people keep thinking about the same bad things over and over.
Yes, it's really hard.
Some scientists think that this is actually a good thing. This theory claims that depression is for focusing on analyzing complex problems. When you encounter a difficult situation, sometimes it's best to stop and really think about the problem. Researchers show that thoughts during depression is highly analytical. You tend to break it down into small problems.
Yeah, I remember I cared too much about small things when depressed.
And you see things more realistically when you are depressed. You also tend to get higher score in intelligent tests. You become better at solving social dilemmas.
So, depression is a function to stay back and think through a tough problem?
Yes, and to do so, you need lots of uninterrupted thoughts. Many symptoms of depression reduce interruptions. You prefer social isolation. You lose your appetite. You no longer find pleasure in what you used to enjoy. All of these let you focus on your problems without interruption.
Here's my personal feeling about this theory. I understand the logic, but I don't feel it's right. I've never been like, oh, I got the solution for the problem, under depression.
Well, you wouldn't feel like that under depression. Even if you've never solved the problem in front of you, haven't your overthinking helped you with similar situation later on?
I don't know. Well, maybe.
Here's another theory. Depression is a social manipulation strategy to make others help you.
Hey, I don't pretend I'm depressed to make others help me.
Of course you don't. Yes, you become depressed without intention of manipulation. You just evolved to become depressed when you need help, because depression was effective for that. You don't need to consciously know depression's function for it to work.
I don't like being said that I become depressed to win help from others.
I'm not saying you are deliberate. You just evolved to be depressed when it's effective to be depressed. It's your instinct. For example, you don't feel sexual desire deliberately for reproduction. You just instinctively feel it. But that sensation evolved because it's effective for reproduction.
Okay.
Now, depression is a high-cost behavior. You lose motivations on most things. You just can't do anything. However, this high cost shows that you are honest and really need help. Low-cost behaviors like crying are sometimes viewed with suspicion. Maybe the person is not in real need but just trying to win more than fair share. On the other hand, depression is a high-cost behavior that signals to others that you really need help.
Yeah. You lose so much for faking depression that it's not worth it unless you really are desperate for this one thing so much that you don't care about anything else.
Also, as I said, depression usually means you can't do anything productive. This affects those who share interest with you, such as your boss or your family. It's like a labor strike. They are forced to help you for their own sake.
I see. If your father is the only one earning income, and if he gets depressed, the whole family needs to help him. I emotionally don't want to agree with this theory, but I understood that depression can be a useful manipulation tool in some cases.
Some argue that postpartum depression is one type of this.
Postpartum depression?
Depression after birth. Women evolved to tend to be depressed after birth because it was effective in gaining help right after birth, which is when they really need it. As I explained, depression has many benefits. Its function is to stop you engage in losing battles, especially for social status. It's also for focusing on analyzing complex problems. It's also an effective social manipulation tool to win help. That's why we evolved to have it, according to these theories at least.
But still, I think it's a bad thing. It's such a terrible experience.
Yes, it's terrible, just like physical pain is terrible, but has its purpose. The sad truth is that evolution doesn't care about our happiness. If a brain had been born to be always happy no matter what, that gene likely happily died out long time ago. Evolution has planted our brain with loads of unpleasant negative emotions to force us to move the way best for survival and reproduction.
Maybe brain science can someday release us from these evolutionary instincts and bring only happiness to everyone.
Thank you for watching.